English Pronunciation Lesson 10. Topic: Intonation. Part 4. Exercise 5. Listening task. Listen to a few of the questions you heard in the interview. Can you identify which questions use falling intonation and which ones use rising intonation? Interview questions. 1. What do you do? 2. How long have you been building flutes? 3. Can I see one of your flutes? 4. Is this your flute? Did I read all 4 questions with the same intonation pattern? No, and that's because most yes-no questions use rising intonation. Information questions, meaning questions that begin with what, who, why, where, when, how, etc., use falling intonation. If you need to, go back and listen to how I read those 4 questions. Now it's your turn to practice intonation patterns and questions. Listen and repeat. Number 1. What do you do? 2. How long have you been building flutes? 3. How long does it take you to make a flute? 4. Can I see one of your flutes? 5. Is this your flute? 6. Can you play the flute? 7. What was that? 8. Do you play any other instruments? 9. How did you learn to play all these instruments? Exercise 6. Read the question. Decide if falling or rising intonation is needed. Finally, choose an answer and read it with the correct intonation. Example. I'll give you a moment to read the question on your own, and then I'll read it to provide a model. Do you play an instrument? You can answer choosing A or B. Both will be read with falling intonation. You can say, "No, I don't. I wish I did." Or, "Yes, I do. And tell me what you play." "I play the piano." Now you'll always use falling intonation in your answers unless you list items. If you list items, use rising intonation until you get to the last item in your list. For example, "Yes, I do. I play the flute, clarinet, and saxophone." Study tip. Do you have a study partner? If so, take turns asking the questions. Let's begin. Question 1. Again, I'll pause to give you a chance to read the question on your own. What kind of music do you like? Choose your answer and read with falling intonation. Question 2. Can you read music? Question 3. Have you ever been to the opera? Question 4. How often do you listen to live music? At this point, I'd like to share some helpful tips for more natural intonation. Here are some do's and don'ts. Go up a little before a fall. So for good falling intonation, your voice needs to come down from a higher note. Also, go down a little before a rise. So for good rising intonation, your voice needs to come up from a lower note. Finally, start a statement at mid-pitch. Don't start too high or low. Let me demonstrate all of this through an example. I know several of my neighbors. Eric is the only musician among them. Are there any musicians in your neighborhood?
The first sentence can be read as one thought group. Let's mark that. We're giving factual information. We're making a statement. So we'll use falling intonation. Our final content word is neighbors. Stress on the first syllable. Now our voice must go up before it goes down. So we'll rise on the stressed syllable and then step down to a lower pitch. Neighbors. Now in this sentence, we can't start too low or else you won't hear the falling intonation. If I start too low, it sounds like this. I know several of my neighbors. And now, with that kind of intonation, not only can you not really hear falling intonation, it actually sounds like I'm bored. And if I start too high, it sounds unnatural. I know several of my neighbors. So you see that we actually have to begin our sentence at a mid-pitch. I know several of my neighbors. Understand? The second sentence will also read as one thought group. What's the final content word giving new information? Musician, with stress on the middle syllable. Again, our voice must go up before it goes down. So we'll rise on the stressed syllable and then step down. There are more unstressed words following, so our voice will either continue to go down or at least stay at that low pitch until the end of the statement. Eric is the only musician among them. Now at the end of our example, we have a question. Okay. We're asking a yes or no question, so we'll use rising intonation. And what is the final content word? It's neighborhood, but is that the word that receives primary stress? I'd argue no, because we're going to contrast your neighborhood and my neighborhood. At first, I'm talking about my neighbors. Now I want to know about your neighbors. So stress is on your. So if this is the point where our voice rises, there must first be a fall, a drop in your voice. Without that drop, the rise is too sharp. Listen. Are there any musicians in your neighborhood? It sounds unnatural. So first there's a little bit of a drop. We go up on your, and because we have more unstressed syllables following, our voice will continue to go up. So there's a bit of a drop, and then we continue to go up, 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 until the end of the question. Are there any musicians in your neighborhood? Listen to the entire example now.
I know several of my neighbors. Eric is the only musician among them. Are there any musicians in your neighborhood? Exercise 7. Listen closely to the statement. What does the intonation tell you? Examples. 1. This is jazz. Falling intonation tells you the speaker is certain. Now listen to example 2. This is jazz. Rising intonation tells you that the speaker is uncertain. Let's begin. Number 1. Ella Fitzgerald was a singer. Two. John Williams composes music. 3. I like soft rock, folk music, jazz, classical. 4. Turn up the radio. I like the song. 8. Listening task. Watch the final video clip. Observe the use of falling and rising intonation.
Do you perform?
I do. I perform on flute mostly these days.
Who do you perform for, or who do you perform with?
I play with a group called Ensemble Robot, and where I actually help build robots, but then I also sing and play my instruments with the robots too.
I hope to make additional lessons on intonation because there are more patterns to present and practice. But that's all for now, and I hope you found this lesson useful. Thank you for watching, and happy study.